apply that. But look pretty in here. Hurry up and put me in my soft girl air.
They say every great artist starts with a story that doesn't make sense until you see the whole picture. But even then, Ari Lennox's story still feels unbelievable, because how do you go from driving Uber and getting projectile vomited on to being handpicked by Jay Cole for Dreamville Records, only to walk away from it all and somehow end up igniting a national conversation about colorism over a 90s sitcom?
I was working at Public Storage and just dropping music on SoundCloud, and there's an amazing rapper named Omen. He loved my music. He told Eve and Cole about it, and Eve was like, we'll fly you out like tomorrow or tonight, something like that, so that you can meet Cole in the studio and stuff like that.
To understand Ari Lennox, you have to start before the music, before the fame, before the world even knew her name. Back when she was just Courtney Sinead Salter, born March 26, 1991 in Washington, D.C., an Aries through and through, stubborn, fiery, romantic, and ready to fight for what felt right, even when it didn't make sense to anyone else.
The
name came first, Ari Lennox. She was watching The Secret Garden, heard the name Mary Lennox, and something clicked. Ari from Aries, Lennox from Lennox. Simple, raw, unpretentious. The kind of name that felt like rebellion and grace in equal measure.
Shea, but a baby. I know that you're feeling me. Bust it to the 10th degree. I know that you ain't.
Years later, she joked she should have gone for something more Nubian, but it was too late. Ari Lennox was here to stay, and the name would one day carry both applause and controversy. Back then, she couldn't see any of it coming. The record deals, the headlines, the heartbreak, all she knew was she wanted to sing, and the path to that dream was anything but glamorous. In the mid-2000s, while trying to build a music career, Ari was just trying to keep the lights on. She drove for Uber. It wasn't passion, it was survival. One night, a passenger vomited all over her shoulder. She kept driving, because bills don't wait for dreams to come true. But behind the rides and the exhaustion, there was something darker, something she later admitted to with a laugh that carried both shame and honesty. She'd been arrested, not once, 3 times. The first time, for stealing from Goodwill, the thrift store, clothes stuffed into her bag, her pants, anything she could fit. A future Grammy nominee caught stealing from a place built on charity. She says she stopped after that, but the memory stuck. Then came a confession so odd it almost felt poetic. As a kid, she used to eat ants. She swore they tasted lemony. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was hunger. Maybe it was foreshadowing, the kind of hunger that would later drive her to sing through rejection, through embarrassment, through fear. While the world around her was laughing or sleeping, Ari was uploading songs to SoundCloud. Slow, soulful, unfiltered. Songs that felt like diary pages. That's when a rapper named Omen found her. He showed her music to Eve, Dreamville's manager, and Eve sent it to Jay. Cole flew her out the next day. In 2015, Ari Lennox became Dreamville's first and only R&B artist, a neo-soul singer surrounded by lyricists. From day one, it felt off balance. Beautiful, but strange. She didn't fit the mold, and that was exactly why she mattered. Her debut EP, Faux, came in 2016. Critics loved it, the world barely noticed, but she kept going, and 3 years later, Shea Butter Baby arrived and changed everything. That album was warmth and vulnerability wrapped in bass lines and candlelight. It was black femininity in full bloom. Songs like Whipped Cream, Up Late, and the title track with J. Cole made her a name that couldn't be ignored. Still, behind the success, the cracks were forming. Dreamville knew rap, Ari was R&B, and the machine didn't quite know how to move her. Then came Age/Sex/Location in 2021, bigger, richer, more mature. It charted higher. Her song with Summer Walker, Unloyal, became a fan favorite. On paper, she was thriving, but Ari was unraveling quietly, publicly, in 280 characters or less. By 2022, her tweets told a different story. Exhaustion, frustration, words about quitting, about not feeling seen or supported. She was tired of pushing through an industry that didn't know what to do with her kind of softness. Those weren't random tweets, they were the early notes of a breakup. When she finally left Dreamville in early 2025, it wasn't explosive, it was inevitable, the kind of ending where both sides say mutual, but everyone knows it was heartbreak. Even Joe Budden called it the least surprising news in R&B. Dreamville was built for bars, not for Ari's brand of soul. And maybe she saw her moment when J. Cole went viral for apologizing to Kendrick Lamar, an apology that split the internet. Maybe that's when she realized even giants have to bow out sometimes. But Ari didn't just leave the label, she left a version of herself behind. Because right as the ink dried on her exit, she spoke out about something that had been sitting on her heart for years. The 90s sitcom Martin, a show she loved but couldn't ignore the jokes. Martin Lawrence's relentless teasing of Pam, played by Tichina Arnold. The jokes about her hair, her looks, her manly features. Ari asked the question so many had thought but never voiced. Why were those jokes always aimed at the dark-skinned woman? The internet erupted. Some called her too sensitive, others called her brave, but Ari didn't flinch. For her, this wasn't just about comedy. It was about the stereotypes that followed dark-skinned black women long after the laughter faded. Overnight, she became the center of a cultural storm, and yet she stood tall in it. That's who Ari is: unapologetic, emotional, and always willing to say the thing everyone else is afraid to. And through all that noise, she found clarity. When she sat with Funny Marco, she talked about love, about how she's done settling, about how she wants someone who calls instead of texts, who meets her at her energy. She laughed when she said she's done with Geminis, but she wasn't joking. She was done with chaos, romantic or professional. That's where her new chapter began, the soft girl era. By 2025, her new album dropped, produced by Jermaine Dupri and Brian Michael Cox, the architects of early 2000s R&B. Under the Moon saw her howling like a werewolf. Pretzel, her favorite, was exactly as suggestive as it sounds. It was weird, sensual, soulful, and absolutely hers. No label, no filter. She's manifesting a Stevie Wonder collab now, wants an Usher feature. And she tells the story of how one grandmother told her she sounded like an angel, while the other told her to shut up. Somewhere between those two voices, she found her truth. Now she's single, splitting her time between LA and DC, driving a pickup truck, taking her own trash to the landfill. She posts therapy updates, cozy selfies, affirmations about boundaries and rest. The girl who once drove strangers around for gas money is now driving her own peace. Her voice still echoes across the world, millions of streams deep. Her songs finding new ears every day. The fortune she's built isn't mansion money, but it's freedom money. Enough to walk away from anyone who tries to box her in, define her worth, or dim her light. So the question isn't just whether Ari Lennox can thrive as an independent R&B artist in 2025, it's whether any artist who chooses truth over trends can. The industry wasn't made for those who move differently, for women who sing in full color, for artists who refuse to dilute themselves to fit a formula, but the ones who break the mold rarely ask for permission. Ari didn't fade away. She evolved. She peeled back the layers of expectation, the labels, the noise, the pressure to please, and found herself beneath it all. She traded comfort for clarity, applause for authenticity. She chose peace over pretending. And that's what makes her story bigger than music. It's not about fame or charts, it's about freedom. About a woman learning that softness doesn't mean surrender, that strength can sound like vulnerability, that walking away can be its own kind of success. Her journey speaks to anyone who's ever outgrown the version of themselves the world demanded. She's the artist who kept moving through the mess, the woman who said no when it would have been easier to say yes. She's proof that reinvention isn't about escaping, it's about returning to who you really are. Because in the end, it's not just about Ari Lennox. It's about every creative, every woman, every person choosing to live loudly and honestly in a world that rewards silence. It's about reclaiming your voice when the world tries to mute it. Ari's story reminds us that purpose doesn't need validation. That joy can exist outside the spotlight. She's not just surviving the industry, she's redefining what success looks like, one honest song, one fearless choice, one liberated note at a time.